إعلان مهم.
重要提示
Important announcement.
Message important.
Важное объявление.
Anuncio importante.
يرجى من المتحدثين الكرام إلقاء بياناتهم بسرعة معقولة لضمان ترجمة فورية وافية وعالية الجودة.
为了帮助口译准确完整传递发言信息，请代表发言时语速不要过快。
Speakers are kindly reminded to deliver their statements at a reasonable pace to ensure complete and quality interpretation.
Il est rappelé aux orateurs qu'ils doivent présenter leur déclaration à un rythme raisonnable afin de garantir une interprétation complète et de qualité.
Напоминаем ораторам, что для того, чтобы устный перевод был полным и качественным, необходимо выступать в умеренном темпе.
Se ruega a los oradores que pronuncien sus declaraciones a un ritmo razonable para garantizar una interpretación íntegra y de calidad.
Excellencies, distinguished participants, I hereby declare open the 16th meeting of the 62nd session of the Human Rights Council. And before we start, I would like to remind you that the deadline for tabling draft resolutions is tomorrow, Thursday, 25th of June at 1 p.m. Any requests for extension should be made before 12 p.m. tomorrow and would be approved by the Council only once and for 24 hours only. In this regard, I have been informed that the Presidency has been approached by the sponsors of the draft resolution Protection of Healthcare in Armed Conflict under item 3, with a view to extending the deadline of submission until Friday, 26th of June at 1 p.m. Explanations have been provided. With your approval, an extension of the tabling deadline for this draft resolution will be granted until Friday, 26th of June at 1 p.m. I take that this is agreeable to all of you. We will now continue the interactive dialogue with the Working Group on Discrimination Against Women.
Half of the African states. Despite the welcome advance brought about by AI and related technologies, particularly in scientific and economic spheres, the Africa Group is particularly concerned about the risks that AI poses to gender equality in Africa, particularly in light of the digital and technological divide. From another perspective, the group also remains concerned about the risks of exploitation, harassment, invasion of privacy, and other forms of abuse faced by women and girls on Labor Organization at its 114th session. Madam Vice President, to strengthen this dynamic, the Africa Group calls for more cooperation to find the necessary compromise to define specific fair and equitable standards within the view to better regulations of AI, which sufficiently takes into account the protection of the rights of women and girls. In this process, we insist on the need to ensure the effective participation of women and girls with a view to more inclusive and non-discriminatory digital governance. Thank you.
I thank you. And next.
Beneficiary countries of the Trust Fund for the least developed countries and small island developing countries participating in the present session. As artificial intelligence and related digital technologies become increasingly integrated into our societies and economies, it is important that their benefits are accessible to all. For many LDCs and SEEDs, however, significant gaps in connectivity, digital infrastructure, and technical capacity continue to limit the ability of women and girls to benefit from these technologies. Ensuring their full and equal participation in technological innovation remains essential to advancing gender equality and women's empowerment. We therefore underscore the importance of international cooperation, including technology transfer and capacity building, to help bridge digital divides and strengthen digital skills, particularly for women and girls, in line with Sustainable Development Goals and the Global Digital Compact. In this regard, we would like to ask the working group, what measures can the international community take to strengthen technology transfer and capacity building for LDCs and SEEDs to ensure that women and girls can participate meaningfully in the development and governance of artificial intelligence? I thank you.
Thank you. Next, I give the floor to Nigeria on behalf of a group of countries.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I have the honor to deliver the statement on behalf of the group of Friends of the Family. The full text is available on the extranet. We reaffirm our commitment to eliminating all forms of discrimination against women and girls, while also reaffirming the important role of the family as a natural and fundamental group unit of society. We would like to comment on the guidance document issued by the Working Group on Discrimination Against Women and Girls concerning family life. We note with concern that certain interpretations and concepts contained in the document, particularly regarding the concepts and forms of the family, could be interpreted as redefining agreed international language despite the absence of intergovernmental consensus on such interpretation and terminology. We further believe that broad normative interpretations of this family's role as a source of protection, solidarity, care, and support. Finally, we stress that supporting women and girls and supporting the family are complementary and mutually reinforcing objectives. We therefore encourage all mandate holders to remain guided by internationally agreed language. I thank you, Madam Vice President.
Thank you. Next, I give the floor to Council of Europe.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. We thank the Working Group for its valuable report and work. The Council of Europe has played a leading role in combating discrimination against women and girls, both through its standard-setting work and the European Court of Human Rights case law. A cornerstone of this effort is the organization's commitment to substantive gender equality and the implementation of our Istanbul Convention, which recognizes violence against women as both a human rights violation and a form of discrimination. The European Court of Human Rights demonstrates increasingly robust approach on this matter. It has continued to strengthen safeguards against gender-based violence, trafficking, and discriminatory treatment of women, underscoring that states must not only prohibit discrimination in law, but also ensure equality in practice. We also addressed emerging challenges aim to end impunity for the harm caused by tech-facilitated violence and to build responsible AI. These developments reaffirm that achieving real equality for women and girls requires effective laws, gender-sensitive institutions, and a society free from stereotypes and prejudice. I thank you.
I thank you. Next, I give the floor to Liechtenstein.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Liechtenstein welcomes the Working Group's report and its conclusions.
AI is being developed and used in a context already shaped by entrenched gender inequality and different intersecting forms of discrimination. Where that context goes unaddressed, AI does not only reflect discrimination, but it compounds and accelerates it. Women and girls are already experiencing this, for instance, through technology-facilitated gender-based violence, such as deepfakes and non-consensual intimate image abuse. States must work better to prevent online gender-based violence, while also ensuring the equal participation of women and girls in digital spaces. We recognize the genuine potential of AI to advance gender equality and begin redressing historical inequalities, but this can only be realized through deliberate and human rights-based regulation. Madam Vice President, we are concerned that private sector devotes minimal attention to gender-responsive design or expertise, while states too often dilute their human rights obligations through voluntary and market-driven approaches. The design and deployment of all digital technologies, including AI, must be grounded in feminist and gender-responsive approaches and in full compliance with international human rights law. I thank you. Thank you. Next, I give the floor to Belgium.
Madame la Présidente.
President, Belgium's grateful to the working group for its report. And we have undying support for this mandate. Artificial intelligence represents a significant challenge for gender equality. Nonetheless, as your report of women and girls rather than compromising them, it's essential that states adopt a governance framework around AI that's founded on human rights and is gender transformative. Furthermore, Belgium welcomes your choice to address technology-facilitated gender-based violence. While this is not a new phenomenon, this has escalated rapidly in recent years, posing growing threats to the safety and well-being of women and girls, but also to democracy more generally. As you note in your report, this has become a serious human rights violation, in particular for women and girls facing multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination. In that connection, we look forward to the publication in September of a new study from the HRC Advisory Committee, which will further contribute to our understanding of this issue. Dear members of the working group, could you please share best practices concerning the gender transformative design of AI regulation frameworks? Thank you.
On artificial intelligence and related digital technologies. While there is potential to harness artificial intelligence for human rights, UN Women has documented how technology can exacerbate inequalities, further compounding and persisting gender digital divide, with women and girls having less access to computers and internet, let alone artificial intelligence. Left unregulated, AI mirrors the gender bias and discrimination in our society. This is evident in the alarming rate at which artificial intelligence amplifies or creates new forms of technology-facilitated gender-based violence. All tools can target AI tools and remains weak. Access to justice and accountability must be strengthened as a priority, including consideration for the responsibility of tech platforms. Who develops AI and what kind of data is trained on has gender implications. Women's meaningful participation and leadership in digital governance remain essential preconditions for rights-based technological transformation. UN Women looks forward to working with the working group and other partners to advance gender-responsive, rights-based, and inclusive AI governance with a strong focus on women's and girls' rights, safety, leadership, and participation. I thank you.
Thank you. Next, I give the floor to Austria.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Austria aligns with the EU statement.
AI and digital technologies are reshaping the conditions under which we exercise human rights. While AI holds the potential to contribute significantly to advancing gender equality, for these benefits to be realized, we need rights-based and gender-responsive regulation and governance. As for women and girls, these opportunities can also lead to amplification of existing power asymmetries, discrimination, and exclusion. Enabling women and girls to use digital technology involves removing systemic, economic, and social barriers by promoting digital literacy, expanding affordable access to devices and the internet, and fostering safe online environments. We can empower women and girls to participate fully in the global digital economy and to benefit from it. Austria funds national projects aiming at the strengthening of digital resilience and digital media skills for women and girls. In cooperation with universities and associations, Austria is trying to break down traditional roles, promote digitalization, and open new access to STEM education. This also includes prevention of cyber violence. In addition, we need to enact and enforce legislation protecting privacy and personal data, as well as strengthen national legislation and mechanisms to effectively address and curb technology-facilitated gender-based violence. To the members of the working group, in preparing this report, which challenges to women and girls' rights particularly stood out for you and why? Thank you.
Yes. Vice President, the OIC Independent Permanent Human Rights Commission, the IPHRC, reiterates its commitment to combating discrimination against women and girls in all its forms. Education, healthcare, employment, participation, and justice undermines sustainable development and social progress. The IPHRC remains concerned over persistent structural barriers, poverty, conflict, occupation, harmful stereotypes, and digital inequalities that disproportionately affect women and girls, particularly in vulnerable communities. The Commission stresses the importance of adopting balanced and culturally respectful expand women's access to quality education, economic opportunities, technology, and leadership positions as essential components of inclusive development. The Commission calls for enhanced international cooperation, dialogue, and exchange of best practices to eliminate discrimination and ensure the full realization of the rights and dignity of women and girls worldwide. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, I give the floor to Poland.
Thank you, Madam President. I am honored to address you today as the United Nations Youth Delegate of Poland. As a representative of a younger generation, I would like to focus on one concern that emerged repeatedly in consultations with young people across Poland: the future of work in the age of artificial intelligence. As young people enter an increasingly competitive and uncertain labor market, AI is rapidly transforming the skills employers demand. While these technologies hold great potential for innovation and economic growth, they also risk reinforcing existing inequalities. As the report highlights, women and girls remain disproportionately vulnerable to job displacement, particularly in female-dominated sectors such as health and care, business administration, and clerical support. Equal participation in the future of work requires equal access to the digital world. Yet many women and girls, particularly in rural and disadvantaged communities, continue to face barriers to internet access, digital tools, and digital literacy. Without targeted action, they risk being excluded not only from the future employment opportunities, but also from shaping the technologies that will define them. In this regard, what concrete measures have proven most effective in ensuring that AI-driven transformations of the labor market advance rather than undermine substantive gender equality, particularly for young women entering the workforce? Thank you.
I thank you. Next, I give the floor to Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. The Republic of Korea welcomes the timely reports of the working group focusing on digital technologies. AI has potential to foster innovation in addressing inequalities. At the same time, it can amplify existing discrimination through algorithmic bias and widen society dedicated to AI for all. In response to technology-facilitated gender-based violence, our government has been actively tackling sexual crimes in the digital space, strengthening investigations, providing support for victims, and promoting prevention through education. For example, the recently amended Comfort Women Victims Act prohibits the dissemination of false information concerning the Comfort Women victims both online and offline. The Korean government will continue to strive to restore the honor and dignity of the victims and to heal their psychological wounds. Finally, we remain committed to sharing our expertise with other countries and enhancing regional and global cooperation, including by supporting the UN Women Knowledge and Partnership Center in Seoul. I thank you.
Thank you. Next, I give the floor to Mexico.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Vice President. Mexico is grateful to the working group for this rigorous, timely and relevant report. We agree that emerging technologies are not neutral. Rather, they amplify existing gender inequalities, including through algorithmic bias, digital exclusion, and multiple forms of violence facilitated by technology. Nationally speaking, we highlight the adoption of our Olympia law. This is legislation that recognizes digital violence as a form of gender-based violence and punishes by digital platforms. We reiterate that digital technology must focus on substantive equality, dignity, and privacy for women, incorporating a gender perspective in the design, development, and technological governance around it, and connected to transparency standards and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, I give the floor to Japan.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Japan thanks the working group for the presentation of its report. We share the concern that women and girls continue to be disproportionately impacted by digital divide, facing barriers to accessing and benefiting from the new and emerging digital technologies, including technology-facilitated gender-based violence, as well as the bias and discrimination in artificial intelligence systems. We recognize the importance of ensuring that AI governance is consistent with international human rights law and contribute to substantive inclusion into the WPS effort, leveraging digital tools to support women's participation and leadership, and promoting gender-responsive capacity building in AI and cybersecurity. We will continue promoting safe, secure, promoting women's meaningful participation and leadership in the development, governance, and the use of AI with a view to promoting and protecting human rights of women and girls. I thank you.
Presentation, the AI and related digital technologies are developing with unprecedented pace. It is up to us to ensure that the design and deployment of technology is grounded in human rights. Only through inclusive and responsible governance innovation does not reinforce existing patterns of discrimination, exclusion, or violence. We have read with interest the report section on the environmental costs of AI, including growing pressure on water resources. The governance of emerging technologies cannot be separated examples of good practices that have emerged in regulating AI to prevent increasing inequalities especially those positively affecting women and girls. I thank you.
I thank you. And next I give
have been victims of harassment via the internet. Less than 40% of the countries have appropriate legal framework to counter this phenomenon. The report mentions the capacities of using AI in a responsible manner. And to support digital innovation such as the platform Ask Marwa, which provides questions to adolescents age of equality, not of exclusion and marginalization. Thank you.
I thank you. Next, I give the floor to Romania.
To face barriers to digital access. Digital spaces have also become arenas for harassment and violence, including intimate partner violence and sexual exploitation. Surveys show that almost 40% of women have experienced harassment online, while impunity for technology facilities must be fully integrated into digital transformation. We continue to strengthen policies to combat violence against women and girls, including skills and career development, particularly in STEM fields. Members of the working group, this forum has noted often that gender equality remains a century away.
Madam Vice President, the European Public Law Organization thanks the working group for its timely and thought-provoking report on women's and girls' rights in the age of artificial recognize the enormous opportunities that these technologies offer women and girls as states consider regulatory responses, care should be taken to avoid overly restrictive frameworks balance, protecting women and girls from discrimination and abuses while ensuring that they can fully benefit from the transformative potential of AI and related technologies. Could the working group elaborate on how
Madam
Vice President, Switzerland's grateful to the working group for its report. We share the finding that artificial intelligence and digital technologies can represent new facilitated by technology. Switzerland also highlights the importance of conserving an open, free and safe digital environment grounded on the respect for human rights, including free legal and institutional frameworks which are able to prevent these threats and ensure equitable access to technology, justice and effective appeals, as well as to promote do you recommend two states to prevent gender-based violence facilitated by technology and ensure effective appeals as well as full, equal and safe participation of women and girls in the digital
for feminist foreign policy of Spain. You have the floor.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, Madam Vice President. Spain would like to thank the Working Group on Discrimination if it is not developed and used with a human rights-based approach and gender equality at its basis, then it can reproduce and amplify existing discrimination against girls and the effective protection of human rights. In this context, Spain applies the EU regulation on AI and has spearheaded pioneering instruments such as we are working to ensure that technology has human rights at its basis. Thank you. Of the working group about the risks posed by AI and digital technologies when these are not developed or used from the perspective of human rights and by substantive equality, transparency, privacy, accountability, and effective
participation. At the national level, Uruguay has developed a national strategy on AI, which is based on human rights principles and other fields. We would like to ask the working group what measures should states take as a priority to ensure that the regulation of AI and of digital technologies contributes to preventing
Thank you. And next, I give the floor to the Netherlands.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. The Kingdom of the Netherlands aligns itself with the statement by the EU and disinformation disproportionately affect women, LGBTIQ+ people, and minority groups. It contributes to exclusion and limits their participation in public life. The Netherlands therefore stresses aspects of development and addressing gender gaps in the fields of STEM education and work. Only then can these technologies help achieve gender equality. Like others, we'd like to ask the working group what
And next, I give the floor to Republic of Moldova.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. We thank the working group for its timely and insightful report. Digital and ensuring full, equal, and meaningful participation of women in AI governance and decision-making. The Republic of Moldova is committed to promoting a human rights-based approach to emerging intelligence. The National AI Program for 2026-2030, currently under development, aims to ensure the ethical, transparent, and safe development and use of AI systems while strengthening AI literacy through education. Technologies and AI are developed and deployed in full respect of human rights and fundamental freedoms. I thank you.
I thank you. Next.
We share the observation that AI is deeply transforming societies, but it is also strengthening existing discrimination against girls and women by reproducing and girls to internet and education and economic opportunities still. Ensuring equal access to technologies is an essential condition for achieving true equality. For data privacy, these issues affect girls and women in a disproportionate way. Distinguished members of the working Group, have you been able to enter into a
Thank you, Vice President. Ireland aligns with the EU statement and thanks the working group for their report. Ireland echoes the working group's call to ensure that gender equality perspectives are integrated into discussions surrounding AI governance and development. We are and human rights defenders. It is clear that, while AI has the potential to advance the realisation of women's and girls' rights, the current lack of meaningful implementation of AI regulations has exacerbated in relevant fora for the development of global standards for AI governance. We are committed to working towards a future where the human rights and fundamental freedoms of all women and girls are upheld, both online and
Thank you, Madam Vice President. UNICEF welcomes the report of the working group. Digital technologies are compounding entrenched patterns of discrimination with disproportionate impact on women and girls. The proliferation of AI-generated child sexual abuse material and the so-called deepfake sexual content. AI chatbots represent a growing frontier of harm. The global dialogue on AI governance, UNICEF calls for a rights-based approach that recognizes children as right holders in law, policy, and practice, with explicit attention to gender equality and the of children's data and clear prohibitions on AI systems that create sexual abuse material or deepfake sexual content, as well as targeted investment in digital literacy, particularly
AI and new technologies on discrimination against women and girls. The topic tackled is of particular significance, especially in a context where technological progress about the benefits of expanding access to reliable and quality digital infrastructure. This goal is consistent with Chile's efforts to foster the importance of responsible design and deployment of these tools. This requires joint action by all relevant stakeholders, both public and private. In and contribute to combating violence against women and girls in the digital realm. Finally, Chile would like to reaffirm its full commitment to women and girls' rights by promoting measures and actions aimed at
including artificial intelligence, become increasingly integrated into many aspects of our societies. Their implications for the rights of women and girls require sustained attention from the human rights system. Across the sector. Our delegation further notes that the rights of women and girls in the context of digital technologies have been gaining increasing prominence within the Council. Last year, the first ever joint statement on with the core group initiated also testified to the growing attention to these issues. This reflects the recognition that the implications of digital technologies for women and girls go far beyond questions issue. I thank you, Madam Vice President.
I thank you. And next, I give the floor to Malta.
Create opportunities rather than deepening existing inequalities. Given the global nature of AI development and deployment, collective action is essential to ensure effective regulation and oversight. Any technological innovation. Artificial intelligence and emerging technologies must be inclusive by design, and women must have an equal role in developing the solutions that will shape tomorrow's world. To safeguard women's participation in public and political life, including in digital spaces. In this regard, Malta would like to ask the working group, what are the most urgent measures states should prioritize
against women and girls for their attention to the AI impact on the rights of women and children and girls. The stereotypes against women and girls in this respect. The Sultanate of Oman gives priority to a comprehensive and inclusive digital technology and the participation of women and girls, particularly the best use of the opportunities offered by modern technologies. We also underscore that responsible and ethical use of AI must be respected in line with of AI that ensures the human rights of women and girls on equal footing. Thank you.
Thank you.
it also raises challenges that require human rights-based responses. Therefore, we agree with the importance of bridging the digital divides that still limit access for many girls is essential that AI governance incorporate principles of transparency, accountability, and non-discrimination. We need to prevent algorithmic bias that can reproduce inequality broadens rights and generates opportunities for all. Finally, we would like to reaffirm that international cooperation will be essential for shaping an ethical
Kenya.
Madam Vice President, Kenya aligns itself with the statement delivered by the African Group and thanks the Working Group for its report. As artificial intelligence and related digital of artificial intelligence and digital technologies in ways that facilitate online abuse, harassment, and other forms of violence against women and girls. This underscores the importance of ensuring that Kenya therefore emphasizes the importance of strengthening cooperation, safeguards, and accountability to ensure that artificial intelligence contributes to equality, inclusion, and the empowerment of women and girls rather than
President, Slovakia aligns itself with the statement delivered by the EU. We welcome the report and thank the Working Group for its timely analysis of the impact of AI and related technologies on the rights of women and girls. AI offers important opportunities in areas such as education, healthcare, and access to economic opportunities. At the same time, these technologies can reinforce existing inequalities if not developed and used responsibly and inclusively. We agree that efforts should focus on ensuring equal access to digital technologies, strengthening digital literacy, and supporting the meaningful participation of women and girls in digital sphere. Attention should be paid to preventing technology-facilitated gender-based violence and addressing barriers that may limit the full enjoyment of women's and girls' human rights online. Slovakia supports approaches to AI governance that are consistent with international human rights obligations and that promote transparency, accountability, and non-discrimination. We also underline the importance of international cooperation and the In conclusion, let me reaffirm Slovakia's commitment to support gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls, including in the context of ongoing digital transformation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I give the floor to Czechia.
Madam Chair, distinguished members of the Working Group. As the UN Youth Delegate of the Czech Republic, I particularly welcome the focus of your access, such as infrastructure gaps, high costs, limited digital literacy and restrictive social norms. According to the ITU, as of 2025, there were 280 million more men than women using the internet globally. In the least developed are women, according to UNESCO. When those who build and regulate AI do not reflect the diversity of those affected by it, this how can the working group's recommendations help mobilize resources and political commitment to bridge the digital gender gap and to ensure women's meaningful participation in AI governance? Thank you.
To be a very widespread and persistent form of behavior. The technological transformation affecting our societies has no precedent. AI is constantly redefining the ways in which we promote gender equality and to contribute could have extremely adverse consequences for girls and women who tend to face differentiated risks in contexts of violence and discrimination. We believe it is essential carry out a country visit. We hope very much that the visit will take place as soon as possible, and we'd like to reiterate Guatemala's government's full readiness to continue cooperating. Thank you.
Of women. And let us use this short break to mark the International Day of Women in Diplomacy by taking a group photo. So I ask discussion on the human rights on women, which has mandated in Human Rights Council resolutions 6/30 and 50 representation in decision-making. This debate is accessible to persons with disabilities through the provision of international sign interpretation and of the thematic and special procedures divisions at the High Commissioner for Human Rights, who will deliver the opening statement. I have also Let me also welcome our distinguished panelists. Ms. Shidi King, Chief of the Gender, Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Branch at Point, appointed by the President of the Human Rights Council. Excellencies, dear participants, "30 seconds for all, and a maximum of 40 speakers will be accommodated. Delegates inscribed on the list of speakers who cannot take the floor because of time constraints
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Excellencies, colleagues, friends, women in red. Today on the International Day of Women in Diplomacy, we do more than celebrate the role of women in diplomacy. The world is negotiating with only half of its talent and half of its vision. The numbers are stark. Only 15% of those countries have women serving now is 4 women versus 11 men. Starts much earlier. Only 48% of women participate in the formal labor market, compared with 73% of men. Unequal access to decent work, unpaid care and support responsibilities, stereotypes, and harassment and violence in the work. Sexual violence and harassment at work, with heightened risks for young not all positioned equally in relation to power. Some have access to resources, mobility, education, networks, and security. Many, indeed, most women work, and of course, many women fall into multiple of those categories. And these barriers do not affect all women in the same way. Privilege can soften them, and discrimination exercise their rights, including strengthening their participation and peer leadership, and enhancing labor officials' capacity to respond. Social protection, equal pay, justice, and if diplomacy is to serve all people, it can promotion, care and support, protection from violence, access competence or commitment, but persistent bias and a gap of trust. Research shows that even today, a significant share of people still believe men simply make better influence choices at the ballot box and beyond. Gender bias, often implicit, often unspoken, continues to define expectations of what a leader should look like. To deliver for the benefit of all. Today, we honor the women who have negotiated, mediated, represented, and led, often against the odds. But honoring them is not enough. Our serve the whole of humanity. Thank you.
Chair, Excellencies, it is a true pleasure strain multilateralism, escalating conflicts, and the coordinated backlash against gender equality that seeks to silence women, restrict their participation, and deter their leadership. For too long, pipeline on work free from discrimination, violence and harassment, on access to social protection, and to balance paid work with care responsibilities. And while progress is being made in some areas, UN Women's recent policy paper on women in the diplomatic corps shows persistent gaps. Our research shows patriarchal and absent for foreign services, even where entry-level quotas reached 66%, women's representation declines at senior ranks. Very junior mission here in Geneva, some 25 that they truly shape our joint multilateral effort. And I would like to thank all of you for being here.
Remarks. I will now give the floor to the panel. Panelists for their initial presentations, and first I have the honor to give the floor to Ms. Shidi King.
Thank you. Including at the highest levels. Social development agendas are more inclusive and sustainable. All the positive evidence, there remains a mismatch between the number of and beyond that, persistent gaps remain across fields of in many countries, up to 85% of women are in the informal economy or otherwise in insecure employment without adequate labor or social protection. We know that women remain overrepresented among the working poor.
the women formed their own association to demand equal opportunity the adoption of ILO Convention 100 came together to demand an end to violence and harassment in the world of work, for workers in the informal economy, in factories, in agriculture, in offices, in boardrooms, in parliaments. The ILO transformative agenda for gender equality in the world of work. In the world of work. It presents a clear, forward-looking and strategic roadmap for dismantling the structural barriers that continue to hold women back at work. The resolution sends a very clear and quality care services, skills and lifelong It calls for better recognition, measurement, and it recognizes the essential role of social dialogue between government employers and workers as a tool for building consensus, preventing conflict, promoting social justice. Institutions do not emerge in isolation. Together, they're indispensable to building more inclusive, technology and demography. We need more women in and the ILO looks forward to working closely with all of you towards this goal. Thank you very much.
Decision making. This question, which is at the heart of human rights, is also a major economic development issue and one of social cohesion and modernization of states. 6th. For several years, ambitious reforms instruments in this field, in particular the Convention against at the national level. The reform process has been structured around two complementary pillars. First of all, a legal and institutional one, which seeks to adapt our among the main steps forward is the fact that equality between men and women has been enshrined at the constitutional level. Established a national committee and a women's observatory. We have taken specific measures which are already transforming the reality on the ground. In terms of vocational training, we have developed a framework for security net for the most vulnerable women. Finally, we have also revised the family code. This is a new era for equity and the rights of the child. Today, reflects a profound revolution in women's exposure to moral or professional harassment, very telling. Women occupy only 15.7% abnormally low compared to that of men. And unemployment affects women more than men. In the requirement of justice and an essential tool for development, competitiveness and social cohesion, promotion of occupational equality is not just a
Ms. Caroline Ziadeh, please, you have the floor.
Of sharing a personal journey, so bear with me because it's a very humbling experience. Three decades ago, when women entered the diplomatic service, they were fully aware I see many in the room here and around as my career progressed. However, I realized the Arab countries, I heard remarkable similar stories. Different languages, different cultures, but the same questions whispered being the first is an honor. But it is also a responsibility. You know that your success may open doors for others, while your failure has been marked by moments of hope and moments of crises. One of the most memorable was witnessing the adoption of Security Council Resolution 1701 in 2000. But that the presence of women in leadership changes that. When women are included in decision-making, institutions are stronger, societies are more resilient, and peace is more sustainable. Today, we can online bullying and harassment. Institutions where talent is recognized alone. We must ensure women's full and meaningful participation in diplomacy, peace building, and decision making. And we must create workplaces where come. But I'm even more motivated by how far we still have to go. Our world. The story of women in diplomacy is not simply a story of women. It is a story of stronger institutions, better decision, and more inclusive societies. We have a goal to score. Our goal is not merely to increase the number of women in diplomacy. Our goal is to ensure that every woman who enters this profession can contribute fully and I thank you, Madam Vice President.
Thank you very much for this powerful remarks. Excellencies, dear participants, we will I give the floor first to Her Excellency Miss Vilma Premti, Deputy Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs.
This day is a crucial reminder that the right to work is the foundation of women's empowerment. When women are denied decent work and safe environments, their participation in decision-making is systematically limited. Albania welcomes this panel's focus on these barriers, including gender-based violence and unpaid care. Encouraging progress in leadership, with women representing 35% of leadership roles and the increasing number of female ambassadors serving around the world. Their contribution goes beyond representation. Through their dedication and expertise, they have helped Albania further enhance its position strategic necessity for more effective decision-making. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have the honor to give the floor to Her Excellency
President, on this International Day of Women in Diplomacy, I would like to start by recalling the contribution of women who are diplomats, mediators, peace builders, human rights defenders, and representatives of civil society around the world. Their work reminds women who are candidates for the Secretary General position of the United Nations. The time has come after 80 years for a woman to lead the multilateral organization par excellence in a global context marked by conflicts, polarization, uncertainty, indispensable condition for achieving those goals. It is this spirit which fueled the holding of the 5th Interministerial Conference of our
Thank you. And next, I give the floor to the European Union.
Vice President, the right to work is a human right and a prerequisite for women's full barriers in assessing decent work and advancing into leadership positions in public administration, especially when faced with multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination. The EU is committed to addressing these barriers through the Commission's me say that literally a few minutes ago we have our new Secretary General, Kaja Ologren, who actually is our EUSR for Human Rights, appointed as Secretary. Stereotypes, which continue to limit opportunities for many women and girls. Vice President, could you share the most effective measures to increase women representation in leadership and decision-making?
Thank you, Vice President. I deliver this statement on behalf of the Nordic Baltic countries. Despite existing frameworks, progress remains uneven, and systemic barriers continue to constrain women's leadership in peace and security processes. Our international we must keep up our efforts to ensure women and girls full enjoyment of human rights. Unfortunately, we are witnessing unacceptable attempts Esteemed panelists, what good practices have proven effective in increasing women's representation in influence in diplomatic services and negotiations? I thank you.
And closing them is our priority. Through the ASEAN Community Vision 2045, we have set a new course towards an inclusive community where women lead, decision-making at all levels. We are fostering an enabling environment for women and girls to exercise leadership in all spheres, including in peace and security. And declaration on the transformative implementation of the ASEAN Community Vision 2045 and a strategic plan towards gender equality. This will help us translate commitment
Madam Vice President, the GCC countries welcomes this panel discussion on the occasion of the International Day of Women in Diplomacy, highlighting the in the national strategies and visions aimed at realizing competitive economy market and a rise in
you.